really need to know about the good news regarding DACA. Finally, we have some good news, and there's a little bit of a bad news that I will share with regard to DACA as well. The first thing that you need to know is that USCIS will continue adjudicating or making a decision on initial DACA applications nationwide. This is big because this litigation had held things up for 4 years for initial applicants, and only those who already had DACA were able to renew it and continue to receive their benefits. Now USCIS will continue adjudicating those pending initial DACA applications, and new applications can be filed as well. However, if you live in the state of Texas, unfortunately, you will not be able to get a work permit through DACA because this injunction applies to Texas only. This is a Texas only injunction. It no longer applies nationwide. And so applicants living in Texas can receive only deferred action, but not a work permit. And also they will not be considered lawfully present in the United States. If a Texas address is on your initial application, USCIS will reject and refund your filing fee for the Form I-765. That's your employment authorization application. USCIS will only approve deferred action for those of you in Texas. There are about 90,000 people in Texas who have DACA, and so this is significant. You'll need to make a decision whether Texas is the state that you will remain in light of the fact that you cannot have work authorization with your DACA if you reside in Texas. Now, if an out of Texas approved DACA recipient later moves back to Texas, USCIS will issue to those individuals a notice of intent to revoke their EAD. They will have 15 days to respond to this notice of intent to revoke. So in other words, if you were granted DACA and you live in, let's say, New York, and you have DACA with your work permit, if you then go back to, if you return to Texas or move to Texas and update your address with USCIS to notify them that you have a new address and it's in Texas, they will send you a notice of intent to revoke your EAD and give you 15 days to respond to this. Applicants who move out of Texas can file, however, a DACA-based EAD for the remainder of their approved DACA period. So if you're currently living in Texas and you're granted DACA through an initial application that is filed, you will only receive deferred action. But if you leave Texas, you can file for your EAD and prove to USCIS that you are now out of Texas. All right. Now, what about renewals? For those of you who have been renewing your DACA at this time, while this partial stay is in effect, renewals will be processed as usual. They're not going to make any changes with renewals at this time, but just keep in mind that that if the stay is lifted, this partial stay is lifted, the Texas restriction may later apply. So to summarize, Texas residents with DACA cannot receive work permission or the EAD, and they will not be considered lawfully present under immigration regulations. USCIS is going to create a new class of admission for Texas-based DACA recipients who are here in the United States and now considered and not considered lawfully present here in the United States. So this is all going to be based on your geography. And to put it simply, if you're in Texas and you would like to have DACA with work permission, EAD so that you can show an employer that you can work lawfully here in the United States. This injunction will not allow you to do that. You will need to leave the state of Texas and update your address with USCIS in order to get work permission. For this litigation was pending for 4 years, and all of these initial applications were on hold during that time. And now USCIS has provided instruction, has indicated through the litigation, here are the things that we're going to do at USCIS, and we will also notify the public about their responsibility to update their address. USCIS will require you to submit a change of address form through their online website. You'll create your online your online account with them and update your address so that they'll know exactly what type of benefits where you are and what type of benefits to provide to you. So friends, very important update, and I'd like for you to share this live session, this video, with other people so that they're notified that DACA is back for initial filings nationwide with deferred action and employment authorization, work permission. However, if you live in the state of Texas, you will not be able to get that work permission. And it is your responsibility to update your address with USCIS. For now, the renewals will continue to be processed as usual, but things can change with regard to the renewals. And if things do change regarding the renewals, folks in Texas will not be able to have their renewal processed as usual. So those are the very big points that I'd like for you to know today regarding DACA. The litigation, things are still, happening. Texas is the only state. Why is this happening? Texas is the only state through the litigation that was able to prove that it has been harmed by DACA. That's why the injunction only applies to Texas and not to the rest of the country. So the 90,000 of you who are in Texas with DACA, I think that you'll have a decision to make. Guys, if you are out of the state and out of Texas and you had been approved for DACA with work permission and you moved to Texas, you're most likely going to have get a revocation notice from USCIS to revoke your work permit. So please keep that part in mind. Now, on USCIS's website, there is you have the capability of applying for DACA. Look at the requirements to make sure that you meet the requirements for this type of process and status and permission to work in the United States. If you meet the requirements, definitely go ahead and apply and get this.
Oui, DACA, retourner back. Nous partager vidéo ça ensemble avec vous, sur une famille, sur un frère et qui apply pour DACA, ou bien qui était dans DACA, et qui était venu dans DACA, eh bien, ou capable partager vidéo ça ensemble avec elle, et c'est comme ça tout. Il est capable de jouer une information, ça fait connaître que DACA, lui, retourner souterrain. Et fois ça, c'est pour moun Dakar. Et nous a demandé pour qui ça que vous pensez des décisions ça et quitter écrit ou bien quitter opinion en bas commentaire par billet et là partager abonner et pour plus de nouvelles officielles sur Dakar TPS en parole immigration qui chaque jour qui nous partageons sur plateforme ça. Et pas oublier channel ça, c'est channel pour là. Et channel ça, c'est channel ça qui là, qui toujours chercher information et pour communauté, pas non qui c'est communauté haïtienne. So, c'est toute information ça qu'elle te gagne pour aujourd'hui, qui c'est 30 septembre 2025. Et n'a toujours cherché information pour même dans ça c'est les Mac ben immigration et c'est les mêmes qui partageaient information ça sont capables de supporter le tout et puis il est toujours bah, bonne information sur USCIS et dit toujours parler pour la communauté haïtienne tout aussi. Et vous capable de supporter le tout. Et dans le travail ça qu'il a fait. Et pas oublier abonner, quitter un commentaire, like vidéo, et aider-moi grandir par ça pour nous capable arriver dans l'autre niveau. Bye bye, c'est un plaisir pour moi-même qui me devine partager vidéo ça ensemble avec vous. À la prochaine pour le prochain vidéo. Bye bye.